Lebanon is my homeland. I was an archaeologist, and I scraped off layers of earth, tracing the steps of man. And one day, the Lord came past me and talked to my heart with words sounding like the words of Ezekiel to the wife Jerusalem. He told me, "You are by origin from the country from the land of Canaanites. When on your birth you were born through the cries, among the cries of death, under the bombs, and no one believed you could get out alive. I came past you, and I saw you struggling in the blood, and I told you, live and grow like the grass in the field. And you did that. You grew. You became beautiful, and I came past you again, and here you were. You are in the age of love. So I laid the edge of my cloak on you, and I made an alliance with you, and you became mine. Since then, the church has become my land. My journey is the Augustinian monasticism. My workshop is my inner life, where I excavate, and I let people excavate myself by the mystery of God, by the mystery of mankind. And today I'm here, and I'm here sharing with you some of my findings. One day, a sister of our order told me, "Abir, remember your origins, how beautiful you were when you came from the hands of your Creator. There, only there, you find a writing about where you have to go back from a toil to another, from a grace to another. That is the original sanctity, where you were from and where you have to go back to. Original sanctity." I had never heard about that. I really couldn't understand what it was. How is it possible to go back there? People talk about a sanctity, a holiness to achieve. And she could not answer, and unfortunately she passed away, and her words remained etched into myself more than a will. So the feeling, I really wanted to understand the meaning of those words. It became kind of the peg of the archaeologist that cuts through the earth, revealing its mysteries. So it was archaeology which did something for me, let me understand something more in terms of this original sanctity. So usually, for an archaeological site, in order to study the history of a city or to understand the evolution of different civilizations, stratigraphy is carried out. When I dug in Beirut, the first thing we found was a context which was contaminated. It was not a clear context. And as we went through the layers of earth, we found the Ottoman remains, Mamluk remains of the different periods, Hellenistic, Phoenician. And then we found crude ore, uncut rock. This was the layer we found. Technically, it is called the virgin soil. It's a bizarre name, but it is telling, it is revealing, because it tells us about the pure state in which man found it. It talks about its integrity. So basically, it refers to the creation. It deals with God, with the origin. This is what it is telling us about. It talks about the origins. So I thought, and if this is what we have inside ourselves, that is, apart from the layers of history and beyond the folds of our soul, sometimes they are entangled and mixed up. Sometimes they are contaminated, like in the first context of that archaeological site, maybe because of the bad experiences we went through. So if beyond all that there were this virgin soil, intact soil, where God is everything, where image and likeness have become untouched, because this is where our Creator lives, where memory and origin blend, where memory and future blend, because we find the origin and the end that attract us so much, where there is sanctity. So this insight opened my gaze, my view on the beauty of each individual. So I'm able to see beyond the visible layer, and I can listen to people, and I know that inside themselves there is Christ who wants to talk to me. He wants to be born. He wants to get out of them. There is another finding, another discovery, which is quite amazing. I was able to live thanks to the people knocking on the door of our monastery. So they look for us to talk about their desire for God. And even before that, before my history. And since I was able to see how God works through me, thanks to the people I was able to meet. Maybe some of them are listening to me today here, and I'll try to tell this story. I was impressed. I was by the way in which Augustine defines the monastic life of a monastery, an ecclesiola in Ecclesia Dei. So in this small community, we find the substance of the church, a church that is a mother, which is a space for encounter. A church that is called to deliver children in faith. So to understand better, in a speech to novices, this is how the church is presented. Here is the womb of the church to deliver you, to generate you to the light of the faith in the labor pains the woman will go through. So I understood that as an Augustinian monk, sister. First of all, I'm called to be a space for encounter for the other. I am the womb and the vessel. So the Augustinian life is a uterine life. It is called to be the uterus in the church. So our mission, rather than being just intercession, it is a mission of gestation. We have to keep within ourselves people longing for God, like Mary in giving birth to Jesus, the one who brought heaven and earth closer. Our call is that, our mission is that of filling the gap, filling the distance between God and people, promoting the intimacy between God and His creation. So in the image of the uterus is the place of our mission. Maybe it is a daring image, but the fathers of the church have always used the image to talk about the baptismal font. And I'll explain what I mean. The uterus is a well-hidden organ in the body of a woman, but it is unique, irreplaceable in order to give birth to the children. And it leads to one of the most important characteristics of a woman, that is motherhood. It is very small, but it is capable of dilating to house the fetus developing and until it is completed. So it is an organ that is very small, and it is not needed for the life of the person carrying the organ. It is needed, it is used to give life, to give birth to someone else. So our life is like that organ. It is well-defined. It is secluded sometimes. It is isolated. But what gets out and gets in is determined by one purpose, generating new life. So we are moved by the gratitude of being inside the womb of the church. So we are reached freely by the love of God, fertilizing our life. So we feel this desire to give birth to the children of love. So the people who meet us, they put in ourselves their wish, their desire for God. So inside ourselves, it is received like an egg, waiting for the seed of the word of creation. It waits for being fertilized by the word of God. So this is how something outstanding, something stunning happens. The encounter between the fertility of the person and the fertility of God Himself. Our life occurs in the light of gratuitousness and of hope, because our womb remains empty physically, but in order to dilate, to expand to a universal motherhood. So this is the only way we have for the gift of ourself. The act of contemplation is genuine when the contemplative sister becomes fully available. And in Hebrew, it says that they say that the womb is Rahab. It becomes dilated by the vision of what is still invisible, that is grasping in human persons, not just what they are now, but what they are not yet, and they would like to be. Like for a real pregnancy, the time for delivery comes. Also in our spiritual life, the birth of a new creature goes through the extraordinary and painful experience of the delivery. So the woman that at the time of pregnancy could not control the growth of the baby, but just keep the baby inside, house the baby. At the time of delivery, I mean, the woman cannot hamper the exit of the child. So the woman is experiencing this passage between life and death, a pain inside herself, but helping her to give birth, to deliver the child. And so she can experience the triumph of life, making her similar to God. The last point I'd like to mention about uterine life is the word of mercy, where mercy in Hebrew is rahamim, which means uterus, maternal bowels. God chose this name to talk about his mercy, to tell us that no one dies in his or her sin. Living in the uterus of the church, living in the womb of the church means telling any individual, you are my son, exactly like God does with us. Rahmim does not mean I forget your sin. It means you are a new creature. When I look at you, I do not see the sin. I see a son. And for us, this is the true meaning of our mission. And I would like to conclude on a thought. No one ever came to the world without going through the womb of a mother, not even Jesus. So motherhood was grasped by man also at the beginning of history as something outstanding. We all remember the figurine of the Venus of Willendorf of the Paleolithic period. I do firmly believe that God, in his wisdom, inspired the sacred author the image of the womb to indicate the nature of his mercy as a new act of creation, as a way to go back to the original sanctity, where your origins and my origins are sacred. Thank you.